and welcome to the Coastal Restoration Toolkit debut. We appreciate you all taking the time to join us today. I am Elsa Carlisle Schwartz with Restore America's Estuaries, which is a national nonprofit dedicated to the protection and restoration of bays and estuaries. And also on the phone, we have my colleague Hillary Stevens, also with Ray, who is helping with the behind the scenes running of this webinar, as well as Don Spilsbury Pucci and Jason Cook, who have worked on the creation and development of the toolkit. So first off, we have a few housekeeping items. This webinar is being recorded, so if you have a colleague that was unable to join us today, you can contact me and we can get them a link to this webinar to view at a later time. And all attendees are currently muted, but you will have the ability to ask questions in the question box, and we will be monitoring those questions throughout this webinar. And at the end, there will be an opportunity to virtually raise your hand if you want to ask a question as well. So the purpose of this call is to first and foremost give a huge thank you to everyone on this call. Many of you played a part in making the Coastal Restoration Toolkit what it is by providing input along the way, and we could not have done it without all of you. We would also like to thank NOAA Fisheries Office of Habitat Conservation Restoration Center, who commissioned this toolkit to support coastal communities and residents interested in using restoration to improve the condition of coastal habitats. The toolkit will be officially launched next Wednesday on July 1st, but we are giving you all a special sneak peek today, and we really hope you enjoy it. And now I'm going to turn it over to Dawn to give some background on the journey we took to create the Coastal Restoration Toolkit.
Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, I guess, depending on what part of the country you're coming from. I and Elsa are on the West Coast, and so I apologize for any noise in the background. I live under a Navy airline flight zone, and they're flying today, so I apologize. I don't have any slides, so you guys get to look at these beautiful birds for a little bit longer. My role with the toolkit was with a coworker of mine, Lori. We facilitated the development through holding listening sessions around the country, and then through some focus groups. So we started with Ray and a steering committee of 7 individuals that represent different regions from around the coastline, and they were a great help in helping set up each of our listening sessions in each of their regions. They also helped provide kind of guidance and interpretation of different coastal issues. So we appreciate all the work that the steering committee offered us. The listening sessions were a forum to gather people in different places from around the coast to hear what their concerns were in their areas with their habitats, what groups they worked with, and how best to reach the people that they generally serviced. We were in 6 different locations back in 2017, and we were in the Pacific Northwest up here in Washington State. We went to Norfolk, Virginia. We were in Mobile, Alabama. We were in Detroit for the Great Lakes region. We were up in Rhode Island, as well as down in California in San Francisco. We also held a couple sessions on the phone, one with some South Carolina representatives and some with a different part of, with Northern Michigan. I talked to some people up in Northern Michigan on the Great Lakes. And then a general listening session for people that were invited but couldn't attend one of the places in person. And we took that guidance and those ideas and those suggestions, and we compiled what you're about to be walked through. And we're really excited about how well it turned out. After working to develop the site, we then took it on a bit of a road show and went to several different focus groups there to kind of vet this out. And that was last year. And we went to New Jersey and held one at Stockton University. We were in Olympia, Washington. We were in Padilla Bay, Washington, and we were in Mobile, Alabama. We also did a few on the phone for that as well, to kind of get feedback on, you know, there was some overlap between the between the listening sessions and the focus groups. So there were some people that were at both, And then there was some brand new eyes during the vetting session. So we took that feedback and worked with NOAA and the developers and Ray, of course. Ray is the driving force behind all of this, and developed what you are about to be walked through. I think that is about it for the development. I think with that, we'll turn it over to Jason Cook from Chariot Creative, who is the brilliant leader of the team that developed this site. All yours.
Hello, everyone. Awesome. Thanks, Don. Thanks everyone for joining. I too would like to give a big thank you for everyone who participated in the listening sessions and the user testing. Quite honestly, the candid and thoughtful feedback that we've received really helped us build the toolkit into what it is today. And that real world feedback like yours will likely continue to help drive improvements in the future. So yeah, thank you. I'm going to do a walkthrough of the main features of the toolkit. I'm not going to hit every single page, but I've had a couple of examples of topics and regions to kind of show you the purpose and how everything works. I apologize for any jumpiness. I think when I start scrolling and moving around, I'm seeing some jumpiness. I'm going to go as slow as I can. But if you have any questions, just feel free to raise your hand at the end or take a look on your own a little later. So to start out with, here's the
Sorry, Jason. Also, if you have questions, you guys have the option to ask questions in the question box, and I'll be monitoring those and answering them as we go, and then bringing up the common questions at the end too. So feel free to put questions up in there, and we'll get to them. Thank you.
Yeah, good deal. So I would say the majority of the decisions that we made during design and layout were very user focused. So we knew that the majority of users would have a love and respect for coastal regions, whether it's part of their career or whether they're part of the community, started their own project. And that's likely the reason why they'd be interested in starting their own restoration project to begin with. So on the home page, I'm going to start moving things down here. We wanted to kick off the experience, at least visually, by reminding them of that, that purpose using beautiful, impactful imagery. You see here we have the main 5 topics with another one, more ways to help, and we're sort of introducing the color palette here as well, design-wise. And then as I scroll down, we're sort of creating a visual rhythm going down the page. Again, trying to use beautiful imagery that might relate to the user while giving them a little bit of data and some insight into what the toolkit's for. And then later, as we develop the site map and user journey, we tried to, lead the user through what the site has to offer, keeping that rhythm and sort of reminding them of that purpose mixed into the content as we go down the page. And here's some quick facts, about some of the topics that, the toolkit dives into as they go down deeper into the website. I'm just going to go to the bottom of the page and go back up and hit some main points. So if I go back to the top here, I'm going to do that quickly. So to go through, one of the things, we did a demo video basically with the here, and this video came out of feedback that we received during the listening and testing sessions. We thought it best to kind of give viewers who are willing to take, a couple of minutes and kind of guide them through using a animated demo video, exactly how to use the toolkit, and you guys can take a look at that on your own time, but it kind of leads you quickly through how to use the navigation. And another little feature here we have, of course, for accessibility, ADA compliance and all that is this little widget here that pops up and offers some keyboard navigation, contrast differences if you have a hard time seeing the screen and all that kind of stuff. So the navigation I'll go through really quickly. Basically, we have 5 main topics that I think came out of the content development after the listening sessions and all that. So putting these issues into certain buckets or content silos, I think was the hardest thing on Elsa and Don's side. So hats off to them for kind of delineating things where they need to go. It helped us build the site map intuitive way. So along the 5 topics here, we have very similar drop downs or submenus under these, and the only difference in any of these is that the invasive species and the wildlife habitats are broken down into regional subsections. So based on the content that they gathered, they figured that these 2 topics in particular were better broken down into regionals. The other ones were kind of vague enough to apply itself to, you know, the entire US or most of the regions. So if I hit the, I'm going to go to the flooding hub page here, and for every one of these 5 topics, we have what we call a hub page, and sort of just introduces the user. Maybe, you know, it kind of arms them with stats that they may need. The problem, and then we have below, we have the solution. We have inline links to sort of link out to, you know, really dependable sources. We try to keep the user engaged with infographics that look cool, you know, and that also inform them. And then here, of course, we're pulling back in that purpose and some visual reminders of what they might love about the coast as we introduce the solution. And then from here, I'm going to go ahead and go to the bottom of the page here. And we have, you know, a follow-up. So we don't like the user to hit any dead ends, so we have follow-ups and other links to other parts of the site. So going back to the top, subsections underneath flooding would be tools and resources, which kind of walk you through the steps for successful project development. And I'll try not to bore you guys too much. I'm sure you guys can take a look on your own later. And then resources are a part of every topic. And for the most part, these are links off to other resources that, you know, someone starting their own project can find on their own. That was a common, I guess, obstacle is, okay, there's all this data, there's all these resources out there, so how deep down this rabbit hole do we want to go, right? So for the most part, I think we go down enough to actually, you know, guide them in the right direction and actually have this be a backbone for their new project. And one thing since this popped up here, another element that we added to the site was if you remain static on a certain part of the site on pages other than the home page, where I believe it's more than, you know, 20 seconds, this comes in and sort of offers a way to, if you're stuck, you know, it's one of those intuitive ways that they can say, no, smooth sailing, I'm fine. Or if they click yes, I'm lost at sea. We have some options here for them to visit the FAQ page, search for what they want, or even make a suggestion for something that may be missing. That was one of the plans for this site growing and becoming, you know, kind of evolving over time, is that this site should be shared among colleagues, among friends, among communities. And if there's something major missing that maybe some sector of the community might know about that, you know, we haven't considered, that we want to hear about it. And you can even click to make a suggestion here, and you can do that anonymously. So I'm just going to close it out. I'm going to visit the next page down under this, which is contacts. And then the detailed content, such as contacts and permitting, you know, we took the path of teaching users how to find that information on their own, because based on every county and state, you know, they have different permitting requirements, contacts, etc. And then I'm going to follow through for the next part under flooding, funding resources, which is an important part. It offers information on grants and other options on funding, and even some private resources. And of course, permitting info, which, you know, can get overwhelming. That's one thing that during the site mapping and the kind of the user flow planning, we were learning and also, you know, imagining. You can put yourself in someone's shoes that's not used to planning a restoration project, and permitting would seem, you know, daunting and would probably intimidate you a bit. So we're trying to ease some of that intimidation. And that'll lead me to the next part of the site, which I think is a really important one, would be project examples. So decided to create a project examples section on it that would pretty much stand on its own. So here, you know, the first question a lot of these users would ask is like, I want to see other projects. What are some success stories? How did they do it? You know, and what were the outcomes? So we created a sort of system or an archive to where you can actually arrive at the project examples. You can filter them by topic. So right now we have flooding turned on. You can turn off that and you see everything, of course. Or you can turn on coastal and turn on a certain, you know, filter, you know, region if you're in a certain region, or filter by down to tags. And these sort of are the detailed issues you actually might want to address within your community. They're a little more granular. And then of course you can search for project examples. So as you go down the page, you see a lot of listed here. And these are direct links to other websites. So once you click this, it takes you to the actual project example in a tab. We also offer, I believe some of these are videos. So if I click on videos here as another filter, it'll show you only videos. And then if you click that, it goes right to playing the video that you want to see. So kind of like get you right to the point, get your, sort of soaking in some of the content you need to help drive your project. And the next part I want to cover here is the FAQs. I think is, of course, we have the modal that leads them there, but the FAQ section is, the plan is to become very intuitive. So if I start typing, we have what they call, everyone see it on Google, predictive search. You start typing something and it actually pops up with the options within the site. When you click on that, it takes you down to that detail. And if I go back to another hub page here, one thing I think is really important that we included in the site is a way to print, save this page, or share it, because I know the idea is to have this content shared among colleagues. So you can click the share button, enter your name, the recipient's address, and maybe a message to them. When you click submit, that fires off an email to them and lets them know that you have shared a certain page with them and you thought it would be useful to them and their projects, or just FYI. And then of course we have typical contact. We have about the toolkit, which sort of covers funding. It talks about how NOAA and RAI's involvement, Restore America's Estuaries. There's another option to the demo video, and a little bit about RAI with some quick links off to their website. But otherwise, to cover the regional breakdown, so if I were to want to learn about invasive species or wildlife habitats, and let's just say I just click one of the hub pages, on these two topics only, you're actually asked to select a region from the regional breakdown map, which we sort of made a graphical map here that goes through, and you can sort of see the regional breakdowns. So if I want to see a Pacific Northwest, I click there and it's going to drop me off on the hub page for that. And then from there, I can drill down to the sub pages that will be invasive species within the Pacific Northwest. Same thing for wildlife habitats. If I were to just click wildlife habitats, I would need to choose a region to drill down into. Let's go Pacific Southwest. And there you go. And here we go. These are the same hub pages, except these are going to be a little more specific to that region and to that topic. So we tried to use infographics, relevant imagery, you name it. And we tried to make things fun by, having some movement on the page, some animated GIFs you'll see in here, some videos playing of, I think it was the Pacific Northwest page where we had a crab, moving under the ocean, on the ocean floor, things like that. And I think that covers most of what I wanted to cover. Of course, we have a quick search option in the very top here that pops down at any time. We have identifying icons that you'll see throughout the site that kind of pairs with each topic. So Dawn, Elsa, let me know if I'm forgetting anything. I think I've covered the main parts.
Yeah, no, thanks, Jason. This is Dawn. You did great. I think some of the things, I know one of the things that we tried to address with this was, especially like in the permitting section in areas, we tried to, let me back up a step, sorry. And I should have done this in the beginning. So the idea behind this tool, and I think I recognize a lot of your names that are here. So I think a lot of you understand the background of this and why. But this was originated because NOAA identified a need to develop some really basic materials or an entry-level kind of information for people that don't do our jobs for a living, but have recognized an issue or have some energy around their habitats in their area, their coastal habitats, and want to do something about it. They want to develop a project. They want to learn how to work with people to develop projects. And so NOAA approached their longstanding partner, Ray, to develop this kind of tool. So that was with that intention that we went to talk to a lot of, through our listening sessions, to help develop this tool for people that are entry-level restoration enthusiasts. And so some of the stuff we try to do with this is not just throw links after links at them, except for in the area of the project examples, the case studies. That is what we heard people loved and wanted to see, like Jason said, where are the successes, what have other people done? And then also, what are some of the information that we can use, like if we're going to apply for a grant, where's that research come in? So that's why we've gone, this site is pretty extensive. We tried to add a lot of tags and searchability to it because we heard that from people. The areas such as permitting and contacts, we also heard that we didn't want to have something that would expire and be out of date quickly. So we tried to take a little bit of a different track there and tried to educate people on how to do these searches themselves. So rather than providing links to any kind of permit that they might need, recognizing that you would, depending on where you are and depending on what project it is and what jurisdiction level you're working with, your permitting is going to be vastly different. So we try to educate people and give them ideas for search terms, teach them how to do this a little bit on their own, give them enough lead so that they kind of are encouraged, but then also teach them how to help themselves a little bit. So trying to thread the needle there, being able to keep it up to date and encouraging. So we hope that we've kind of nailed that. And we do have a couple of questions coming in. Elsa, did you have anything to add before we go to questions?
No, I think that about covers it, but I do see that we have some questions asking when you can view the site, which I love the excitement. So we are officially launching the site on July 1, but as I said, you all are the folks who really helped get us to where we are. So the site is currently live and you can go to restoreyourcoast.org and view the site. And we, as I said, we're officially launching July 1. So after July 1, feel free to put this on, your websites, your newsletters, really, we're kind of counting on you guys to help spread the word. I know a lot of you have mentioned colleagues and stuff who are interested in the site as well. And please, feel free to share it far and wide. And it's restoreyourcoast.org.
And hi, Kevin. I see you're on the asked a question. And Kevin was one of our steering committee members from the Mid-Atlantic area, from Virginia. So thanks very much for joining us, Kevin. It's been a long time. Are there any other questions? You can go ahead and raise your hand as well, and I can unmute you. From what I see from people's email addresses, we've got good representation from around the country, actually.
One thing I did not cover, and I don't know if it really applies, but we're going to have a media kit access point here, so certain partners can actually access a login, if I can remember the password. I think that's it. So there'll be a media kit download here as well, where we have logo and branding, the press release, promotional images, and more stuff to come. So not sure if that will apply to everyone here, but it's an option that it's going to be passed out to some of the partners for exposure and trying to get the word out.
Right. Kevin would like to see, please, if you could, Jason, if you could go to see some of the local driven success stories. Let's see if we can pull one of those case studies out.
Yeah, absolutely. So local to where? That's the question.
Let's see. Well, let's go to the Mid-Atlantic area. That's where Kevin's from.
Northeast Mid-Atlantic. And I know that this thing is, I could actually filter this down. If I clicked a few more filters, we would probably end up with 0 results. So this thing is sort of made to grow, and as exposure and as feedback come back in and as projects are completed, I think the plan is to add more and more project examples to this archive. So here we have Northeast Mid-Atlantic region, and then citizen driven, which is sort of a smaller. I don't know. You guys can probably explain that better than I can, but it's small potatoes versus huge projects.
That's about it. We tried to look for examples out there that were of projects that were driven by community members, as opposed to larger regional organizations. They're there as well, but we wanted to be able to have a tag so that people were looking to find something that was less daunting, that they could look at that. For example, up in, I think it was in Great Lakes, there was I don't know, maybe it wasn't Great Lakes, but there was some dam. If you look for dam removal projects, I mean, they're important projects that you could, as a citizen, join onto a committee and help advise, but kind of taking one on and starting a dam project removal might be a little bit too big. So we tried to find, but if you wanted to do like a coastal erosion project on a parcel, there are examples of citizen groups who have taken that on and initiated that. So we wanted to try and differentiate a bit between what's kind of a feasible and project for citizens to start.
Yeah, we have a citizen-driven large scale, I guess would be the opposite of citizen-driven. Then a couple other things that are mentioned. So yeah, algal blooms and green infrastructure and things like that, if there's a keyword that you see that you'd rather go and it's not region specific. And a lot of these, which we came across, a lot of the actual projects that are completed, they would overlap between erosion and flooding, or water quality. So that's something that each case that it's mapped out to where one case study can be attached to multiple topics and multiple regions and multiple tags. So it's pretty involved.
And if you or your organization has a project that you think would be a good one to include on this, please send it my way. And we're always, we're hoping this site will, be very dynamic and, add new content as it comes in. So we're always looking for more projects to highlight, great success stories, or even the non-success stories, I think are equally important. Like, what did you learn? Those types of things. So yeah, send those our way and we can get them up on the site and include them.
Great. Kevin's suggesting that we contact the Lafayette Wetlands Partnership for some great examples. I thought that I looked there specifically, but that has been a couple of years, Kevin. So thanks for the reminder. We can definitely do that. And then Zach has offered that he's looking forward to using and showing this tool to landscape architects, and is wondering who from Ray can be included in the discussions with the American Society of Landscape Architects. Who would you recommend?
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's great. And yeah, I'll follow up with you, Zach, on that.
You're welcome.
And
Zach.
also, I think by the way, I know Zach. Hey, Zach. By the way, the plan is to also sort of do a social media unveiling, and we have a 4-part campaign that we're planning on posting starting July 1st to sort of get the word out. And you can start getting the word out if you want, because we're going to use the hashtag Restore Your Coast. And we'd love to, if your involvement ends up, being related to coastal restoration, we would love for you to post photos and do include the hashtag on Instagram and Twitter, and definitely tag us, tag Ray and I think it's RAE Estuaries, And then also, of course, do the hashtag, make the photos fun and goofy, whatever you want, you know, to show you guys out in the field doing projects or building your audience. This is definitely a community, and we want to make it feel like that.
Thanks, Jason. So Kevin's also asking about do we talk about the preferential use of native plants? And yeah, please send along the 2 guides you're talking about, the flowering native plants for use in wetland restoration and dune restoration. And we can certainly put that in there and tag that to the Mid-Atlantic region. I remember doing the invasive species module. Modules are what we call each of these sections that Jason's put them through. And I remember, it's been a couple years now, but I do remember with the invasive species looking for the native plant lists for each area and trying to link and encouraging finding the keywords that people could use in Google searches to look for native plants. Also how to report invasive species. I remember that being a big part of this, but as far as native plants go, and then working with conservation districts to design and other local organizations to design restoration projects with native plantings and in mind, and in particular, in which and how to source those lists and how to keep those plantings successful, aka watering a lot. So I believe they are in there. It does not mean that we don't need to add more.
Yeah, I think the site will be evolving the more and more content that comes in, feedback we get, more robust here.
Absolutely, and we've done our best to go through and make sure that everything's been tagged correctly. There are a lot of case studies in here, and so if you find something in error, please email us, Elsa, or myself. I think you might still have my address, and I can send it on to Elsa, but also through the contact in the website there. I think it's under the FAQs. Yeah, up on the top bar, the contact. Correct. Thanks, Jason. Yeah, so in there, send a message saying and let us know what has been identified incorrectly, and we can take care of that. This we see as having some, you know, there is a component of this that is like a living document, and we will do our best to keep it active, but it's those of you with these kinds of tools and resources know that's a big task to do. So we'll do our best. And thank you to NOAA as well for their support and their guidance through this. Melanie and Janine, we really appreciate their feedback along the way.
Do we have any other questions? I do also want to invite everyone on the call to our National Coastal and Estuarine Summit, which will be held virtually this year, September 29th through October 1st. And you can visit estuaries.org, our website, for more information on the summit. But if you're on this call, I'm assuming you enjoy hearing about coastal restoration projects or doing coastal restoration projects, and that's a great way to hear more about what's going on around the country in that regard. So that's September 29th through October 1st, virtually. So you can attend from the comfort of your living room. So yeah, feel free to send any other questions or comments. I see we have one that says they really like the layout and photos are beautiful. Thank you, Barbara. We love to hear that you like it as well. So feel free to send those kind of comments. But like Don said, we're open to receiving any and all comments and more content suggestions, those types of things. So
yes, all cheerleading is welcome.
Absolutely. I'll just pause, see if there are any other final questions or if anyone wants to see any other part of the site. But as I mentioned, it is live, so you are welcome to go to restoreyourcoast.org and view the site for yourself. and then look forward to receiving all of our social media and everything as we officially launch next Wednesday, July 1st. And again, just a huge thank you to everyone on the call who provided input, content, comments, review. We really appreciate everything everyone did to bring this toolkit to the beautiful site that it is today. And thanks for taking the time to be on this call.
Yes, thanks everyone.
Thank you, everybody.